So Jeff, my picks went free picks went 2-1 and overall 4-5-1. My over under picks have done very poorly this year, as you know. As poorly as the TV ratings are going to look on Monday night if the NFL continues to produce games that put up 11-10 outcomes. I felt like I was watching the San Francisco Giants and Colorado Rockies play, not the 49ers and the Broncos. What a dismal offensive performance. Great defense, but when you break down the coaching changes, that certainly is one factor, but not the only factor in the lack of offense throughout the NFL this season. Consider all the money that went into the offensive players over the last 3 years, especially at the skill positions. Well, not sure those investments are panning out, kind of like the rest of the market is right now. I feel like checking back during economic recession to see if the defense has played better and there was less scoring. I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking about going back in history and see if that's true, because we're in an economic recession and it feels like we're in an offensive recession. I really think that rules change has something to do with it. If so, that brings into question all those passing and receiving records from the past 10 or 12 years, right? So, I mean, who cares if the numbers, if we're going to change the rules, to favor the offense and, guys throw for 5,000 yards. Well, if we change the rules back and they don't, well, then we know those records are kind of meaningless. So, Jeff, how'd you do this week?
Unfortunately, this was my roughest week so far, and that brought me back down to dead even for the year. So while that's not terrible, it's definitely not what I'm shooting for. There were a couple of huge surprises for me. Buffalo and Kansas City both just really shocked me. And of course, that was the first week I had strayed from my historical Indianapolis predictions. So that'll teach me, right, to stray from my normal spreadsheet. But this week is looking a little better. There are some injuries that I'm concerned with, but hopefully I can account for those. And while we're talking percentages and our overall product that we're producing here, I thought I would show you our first promotional item that we have for our website.
Hey.
This is our pin, Rookies Beat Bookies. We can certainly work out some sort of promotional giveaway should people start wanting to sign up for us.
Well, that's cool, Jeff. That's a big first step for our business. It'll be like we can put that on the wall with the first dollar we make, if that ever happens.
If that ever happens, I'll be happy to. Yes.
Hey, Jeff. Normally, I start off with my week 3 takeaways. What were your takeaways from week 3 this season?
So I always see first half of the season a just crazy week with upsets. Don't really normally see it in week 3, but I think this had to have been the week. I mean, the Indianapolis Kansas City game with the muff punt on the 4 and the weird things, the 11-10 San Francisco game with Garoppolo stepping out of the end zone for a safety, the butt punt. This seems to me to have been the one fluky score week. So I'm thinking this week should get back on track a little bit.
My takeaways from week 3 is you can't win in this league without a healthy quarterback. I mean, you kind of called it on the Chargers game. I changed the line when it went down to 3 and said, take the Chargers anyway. I thought the Jags coming in here from the East Coast would make a difference. It didn't. Healthy quarterbacks are critical. And look, I think defense is king this year. And then finally, the Lions and the Falcons, I mean, they are ATS covering machines. They're both 3-0 against the spread. How impressive is that? Both the teams are 1-2. And, you got to wonder if they're going to play tough all 17 games while losing, but they are, and they're covering the spread. They're shocking me, and they've made me a loser in the last couple of picks. The other key lesson is it's tough to beat healthy, good teams at home. And thus, the home field advantage is critical to the Super Bowl run. And, I think we kind of might have saw that with Miami. I kind of thought the Bills were going to get it done. They had 40 minutes of time of possession to Miami's basically 20. But they still eked out a victory. And, those kind of victories, if they can maintain that, going into the playoffs are going to be a big advantage for the Dolphins. While the Chargers were trouncing home and they're struggling with injuries. So those injuries are critical. That's what kind of jumped out at me. And then, lastly, I just want to offer a few stats to consider as we go forward. I like the over-unders. That's where I've made most of my money in the past. We opened the season with Vegas setting the over-under rate at 738 points, basically 46 points a game. And that was in week one, but only 670 points were scored that in week one. So, basically the under hit 4 out of 12 games, which is about 75%. That's a big loss for the books if you took the unders. Week 3, Vegas had 722 points on the over-unders, 44 a game, and 658 were scored. They still went, but they did better on the average. They went 7-8-1, which is exactly where Vegas likes the line, because they're going to make money on either side of the bet, but they can't lose 75% of the time. So this week, when you look at it on the over-under line, it's 704 total points. And you got to wonder, at some point, are they kind of shorten the offenses too much? And we're going to see a kind of reversal back to the mean, which is basically 23 points a game per team, 46 points. And then they get caught short on the reversal. So that's kind of what I'm looking at when we're looking at stats. Any injuries jump out at you this week to watch while you're analyzing your picks?
Well, of course, the Chargers continue to be one of the ones to watch. They lost their left tackle. They lost their star defensive end, and they've still got a banged up quarterback. And I'm not even sure if Keenan Allen's going to come back yet from his hamstring. So that team is just so decimated by really high profile injuries that to me jumps out. And then San Francisco losing their left tackle. I mean, Williams is probably the best offensive lineman in the league. You'd take that away, not only the pass protection for Jimmy G, the running game that they're so dependent on. I think that's going to play a part going forward for them as well.
And surprisingly, they're still favored by 1.5 at home to the Rams, who, took care of the Cardinals this week on the road in a divisional matchup. But San Fran always plays, the Rams tough, even to the end of the last year's championship game. The injuries to me jump out it's the team injuries. So you had a couple of teams out there that have a long list. One of them is the Texans, and I know they're going up against the Chargers, and you got to wonder, are those injuries, mounting up because you got a team that's playing well against the spread, but really playing above their, kind of outside of their capabilities, or are we looking at it, or we're looking at a coach that just resting his, kind of more veteran squad from practice this week, getting them ready. The injury reports, you kind of don't know unless they come out and say it, but I'm looking at a couple of large team injuries that we'll talk about. All right, well, let's kick off Sunday. As we're not handicapping the game today, Thursday, with a divisional rival, as the 1-2 Commanders travel to Dallas, take on the 2-1 Cowboys. Both teams are chasing one of the hottest teams in the NFL in Philly, the Eagles. The Commanders lost at home to Philly last week, and the Cowboys won with an impressive defensive effort against the Giants. The Cowboys continue to lean on the rushing attack, and Cooper Rush is playing efficiently enough to win. The Commanders have been scoring using the dink and dunk passing game. Their rushing attack isn't on point as it was in the past, but they're still leading in time of possession in a couple of those games that they've won. And so they're gonna be facing the stingy Cowboys defense. I don't bet on the Cowboys. The over-under is 41.5, and the Cowboys are favored by a field goal at home. field goal at home. So Jeff, where do you see this one going? You like it?
Well, I do have a fairly strong strength of bet showing for Dallas in this one. The only hesitation, I still wonder when Cooper Rush is going to start playing him like a backup and really mess up my statistics. But unless Washington can get a really strong pass rush against him, again, I don't think their offense is going to put a lot of pressure on Dallas to score. So Rush doesn't have to get too aggressive. So I think he can take it easy, just do what he's been doing. And on the flip side, I think Washington has a really porous offensive line, which should work well for Dallas to get pressure on Wentz. And we know when he is pressured, he tends to turn the ball over. So yes, this one I am picking Dallas to cover the 3.5 points.
Yeah, I see that Dallas pressure forcing the quarterback's eyes, inside of 10 yards. You saw it last week with Jones. He just, that rush was relentless. He just couldn't look downfield to pick up his target. So he started looking inside that 10-yard zone there. But he concerned because that's kind of Wentz's game. I mean, he kind of does okay in that 10-yard dink and dunk. Do you think does that worry you at all?
Well, he does well at the dink and dunk and they don't use it a lot, but the screen game can also work effectively against the hard rushing teams. But since Wentz isn't as mobile as Daniel Jones, we don't have to worry about him running for first downs, escaping the pocket as much. So I think that kind of evens out. So I expect a very similar game to what we saw with the Giants, about a 7-point Dallas win is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing the same thing. I'm just, as you said, I'm concerned about their ability to run the ball and play action pass off of that. I think if they can establish the run, then Rush can do those play action passes and stay within his skill set and his capability. And he's pretty efficient when he does that. So I see them getting that win as well at home. But, the other thing is, I know it's the Washington football team, the Washington Redskins, now the Washington Commanders. I mean, how many times did one of these teams, go 1-15 or 2-14, and one of the two wins was against, the opponent, the Cowboys and the Redskins either way. I think when the Cowboys went 1-15 that year, I think the one lone victory was against Washington, and
so, Washington only lost 1 or 2 that year.
Yeah. And I'm not, so it's just a tough game to bet on because the rivalry remains alive, which is what's great about the NFL. Hey, next up, we have the London game with both teams traveling to England. The Saints are technically the home team. Not sure that works for them. The Vikings are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 43.5. Vikings are coming off a home win while the Saints lost on the road to the Panthers. A really ugly game they lost actually on the road there. This is a disappointing Saints squad. I thought they were going to vie for the NFC South. I'm not sure that's what I'm seeing. I still think their defense is good, but there's too many turnovers this year. And the Saints, it's putting the defense in a bad situation. And when you do that, you're going to get scored on, so there's difference between, a team, running it from, the 10-yard line and putting it on you and a team getting it on the 35 going in and putting one on you. It's a different feeling, right? And I kind of feel like that Saints defense is still good. I would still fade the Saints as the Vikings are getting on track with the new offense. And I would fade the over on this one, actually. I don't feel like it's going to get to 43.5. It could, but I see a lot of injuries on both sides of the football. The Saints have, had a lot of people out of practice this week. Quarterback, some of their skill positions are just banged up. Not sure if that's going to have an impact on that over/under. I'd stay away from it either way. Jeff, feel like the Vikings are going to be harassed by the British fans. I mean, the Vikings, I don't know if the Vikings have played London yet, kind of sounds like, I don't think the Saxons appreciated the Vikings back in the day. So I feel like they will be rooting for the Saints, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough. What are your thoughts?
Well, so much like when I was looking at Carolina last week being 0 for their last 9 against the spread, New Orleans starting out 0-3 this season usually makes me think Vegas is going to start adjusting to try and compensate for a slow start, but I didn't really see that in the number this week. I was a little surprised, maybe another week's worth of, games before they really start the adjustment period. So for this one, my two main things really come down to whether Dalvin Cook is going to play. And then the other one is Kirk Cousins. He does terrible in prime time, but great early. So I don't know if this is going to be more like a primetime performance since it's the only game going on at this time and it's in London, or if the early game works, if that theory works, then an 8:30 game, he should play great. So I'm leaning towards him not having his normal primetime problems. And I think Minnesota covers on this one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he plays. That prime time, kind of albatross he's got around his neck is tough. I kind of think this is not it though. I kind of think I'm kind of lining up with what you're thinking on that one. I think the Vikings are going to get it done. Hey, next up, the Browns traveled to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. The Falcons are 3-0 against the spread and 1-2 straight up. The Browns are 2-1 straight up. We're coming off extra rest here and decisive victory over the Steelers in week 3. The injuries started to pile up on the Browns, and their lead pass rusher was an automobile accident. I don't know if you saw that one. Thank goodness he's okay. Not sure if he's going to play Sunday, and it looks like Clowney's also struggling with some injuries. That defense has got some depth, though, so it doesn't mean that their other guys aren't going to step up. Their rushing attack is on full display, and this team is eating up clock. And despite the last 2 minutes of that game against the Jets, and really just their tailback not getting down, and running out the clock, the Browns will be 3-0. And wow, once they get back Deshaun Watson, how good is this team going to look in that division, right? Now, interestingly, the Browns are favored by 1.5, and the over/under is 48 and a hook. I like Cleveland here. And I feel like 48.5 is way too much. I know Atlanta's been putting up some points, but I don't see the Browns, taking this game lightly. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
So I do agree with the under. My concern with doing the point spread on this one really is I think there's a chance Cleveland's defense may actually kind of play for miles, have some sort of an inspired effort. So they may not suffer, but then again, having 2 premier pass rushers out is a concern. So I don't know how to bet the point spread on this one, but the over under, you're right. Cleveland's going to run the ball. They're going to protect the quarterback. They're going to eat clock. So I see this one going under.
Yeah, I feel like Atlanta's going to run football as well, although Cordell Patterson made the injury list. That Browns secondary is pretty good. And I see the clock ticking a lot on this game.
Yep.
But I really like I got to tell you, I really like the Browns here. I think the Browns are showing the league. They're one of the best teams in the league this year, and I didn't think that'd be the case, but they are. They're last week was decisive against the Steelers. They just really outplayed them in all facets of the game. Hey, next up we got the Seattle Seahawks traveling to Detroit to play the Lions. The Lions are favored for the second time in a row. Not sure the last time that happened, by 4, and the over/under is 48. Both teams are 1-2, and the Lions are 3-0 against the spread and have played different style of ball. The Lions have put up 35, 36, and 24 points through the first 3 weeks. And Seattle did not put up those kind of numbers. Yeah, the over/under number seems high considering how poorly the Hawks offenses look, but the Lions defense has not stopped many teams. So I may actually fade the over on this despite the fact the Hawks haven't, put up great numbers. And you just got to wonder if their coach Carroll has Goff's number, and keeps this one close. Is that why the number looks the way it does? Anyway, what are your thoughts, Jeff?
So the biggest point, and the reason I'm making this a free pick is that I'm seeing different versions of Geno Smith playing at home versus on the road. And I think playing in the dome at Detroit is likely to cause him some problems. Plus, Detroit has just been playing so hard for their coach, and they have covered all 3 weeks. So I'm actually making this my first free pick, taking Detroit minus the 4.5.
Wow, first pick, first free pick. That's a good one. What do you think about the over-under here? Do you think it goes over? Do you think
So
it stays under?
I would actually think a little bit under, just because one of my factors is Geno Smith and his road woes. So I don't think, even though Detroit's defense is nothing special, I don't think he's going to be able to put up that many points. Now, if he turns it over and they get some defensive touchdowns, then, different story.
Yeah, that over-under kind of is intriguing for me. I've faded the Lions that first game against the Eagles, and I think they covered by half. And I just got a feeling that Pete Carroll may have something on Goff. I mean, I think the Hawks did pretty well when Goff was there at the Rams, except for that one year that they went to the Super Bowl, and they really did that on the legs of that running back. I forget his name, but yeah, we'll see. It'll be a good game. But first free pick, rookies, is Jeff's picking the Lions. Take them at -4 to cover against the Hawks. Hey, next up, we got the Titans traveling to Indy. 2 1-2 teams facing off. The over-under here is 42.5, and the Colts are favored by 3.5, which is Vegas's sucker number, in my opinion. I don't like 3.5 games. 2 offenses that have had a tough time getting going, turning the ball over, and putting the defenses in bad positions. And, turnovers in bad positions is part of the reason why not many points have been scored in the NFL overall. And these 2 teams that were looked at as potential playoff teams are just not looking that way, although they both did win last week. And the difference last week is they didn't turn the ball over, and they got turnovers. So one of these 2 teams has to go 1-3. I would hate to be on the road trying to get to 2-2. So I think Indy has an advantage in pulling out the win, but the number's not right for me. I don't like 3.5 bets. Jeff, where are you going?
Well, unfortunately, I did jump off the Indianapolis historical train last week. I was, typically they perform well in the first quarter of the season. Jumped off the train last week and they beat Kansas City. But I still have not been that impressed with their actual play. Even last week, it was mostly due to some strange situations with the muff punt and some things like that. So if I were to lean any direction, it would be towards Tennessee, because I think they're just a little more fundamentally sound, even though they've got a lot of injuries. But it's not strong enough for me to want to bet this, so I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah, I just think those 2 quarterbacks you just don't know which one's going to show up. And if the 3 interception, 5 sack quarterback shows up, you're done that day. And we both know, because we've bet on these teams this year and we lost because of them. So I'm staying away from them myself. I would lean toward the over. I feel like that, Vegas, these 2 teams in the past have put up higher numbers than this. I feel like Vegas has brought these numbers down quite a bit. So I could see this one going over if both teams are on track. But again, I would stay away. Hey, next up, we got my Chicago Bears traveling to New York to face off against the Giants. The Giants are favored by a field goal, and the over and under is a measly 39.5. Not sure anyone saw these 2 teams 2-1 this year. And one of these 2 teams are going to be 3-1 unless they end in a tie, which I don't think so. The Bears got it done last week on the ground, while the Giants lost a close one at home to the Cowboys. The Cowboys were able to put pressure on Jones and shut down that rushing attack. I'm not sure Chicago's going to do that. but I like Chicago here. Take the points, and this is my first free pick of the week. I'm going out on a limb, Jeff. I'm taking the Bears on the road -3 or +3. Jeff, what do you like here?
So this happened once last week, and it happened again where my spreadsheet historical numbers come out with a 0% lean either way. It's not normally something I see. So I'm definitely not gonna bet on this one just because that is such an anomaly for me. But if I were gonna lean either direction, I would go with Chicago. New York's coming off the shorter week, pretty physical game, losing a receiver to a torn ACL last week against Cowboys. So it is going to be a little bit of a difficult turnaround, even though they're at home. So I would give just a slight edge to Chicago.
Yeah, I like this Bears squad. I'm a big fan of Justin Fields. I mean, I like New York too. I mean, I like the Giants. I think they're going to get over 6 wins. And they're playing good football, but I think the Giants get it done here. I'm sorry, I think the Bears get it done here on the road. And so it's my first free pick. All right, next up, we got Jacksonville traveling to Philly to take on the Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 6.5, and the over-under is 47. The Philly defense has played well here, and their offense is putting up about 29 a game and holding their opponents to 17. I see Jacksonville, despite thinking about the hurricane, that hurricane went on the other side of the Florida Panhandle, so I'm not sure it affected Jacksonville that much. So I don't know if the players are going to be thinking too much. But I see Jacksonville getting over 24 this week and Philly putting up over 28. I think Philly gets the win, but I think 6.5 is too much to bet against Lawrence. So, but I would take the over here. And this is my second free pick. So I'm going against the trend of unders this year, and I'm going to take the over here, Jeff, for my second free pick. Jeff, you got anything on this one? You like this one?
I do have my second free pick on this one, but it's against the spread. So I am impressed with Jacksonville's turnaround, but I think they're doing it at home against Indy. So definitely home field advantage. And I think they're doing it with some unusual injury situations on the other team. I don't know that I'm really sold that they're the ones that have improved as much as the record. And I think Philly is one of the best teams, and if not the best team in the NFL right now, especially with Jalen. If Jalen Hurts continues to play this way, they are the best team in my opinion. So I take them with my second free pick to cover the 6.5 points.
All right, Jeff, you got here 2 free picks on the Jacksonville Eagles. I hope we're both right. I like Hurts this year. He's looking like an MVP candidate for sure. And that offense is clicking on all 8 cylinders. So we'll see what goes. I hope both offenses are clicking and they get to that over number 47. Seems low to me. Seems low to me. Although Philly's only been in one shootout, and that's with the Lions. So last couple of games, they played decent defenses, and they've won handily, but not putting up a lot of points. So I could get burned on this one, but I think they're going to get it done, and they're going to put up some points this week. Next up, we got Steelers hosting the Jets. The Steelers are favored by 3, and the over-under is 41.5. Looks like Zach Wilson might be under center for the New York Jets. The Jets have spread the ball around this year and played well despite their 1-2 record. And that's Joe Flacco. Obviously, we'll see if that trend continues. The Steelers lost last week to Cleveland, and they're coming off extra rest. I got to tell you, normally I take a team coming off rest, but I have a hard time thinking the Steelers are going to – I don't know what Steeler team's going to show up. Their offense looked, domestic at say the least last couple games. I don't see them going 1-3, though. I think they get the win here. I just don't know if it's going to be by 3. And the over-under 41.5 seems low to me. But, hey, they only put up 14 points last week, so I can see it happening again. That defense, the Steelers' defense is pretty good, so they can hold the Jets down. I have to say, though, at some point you may see a Pickett sighting. And if you do that, I think the offense might pick up. And I would like to be on the overside of that score for the Steelers when that happens. Either in the fact that he, gives up the ball deep in the territory because he's a rookie, or he catches fire and gets that offense going, because they have some offensive weapons on that team. They don't seem to be sparking right now. Jeff, what do you think about this Jets Steelers matchup?
Well, I'm also torn on this one, so I'm not going to be betting this game. But I do have a hard time seeing a Mike Tomlin team continue to struggle and start off the 1-3. He's never gone below 500, even when he's had injury ravaged seasons. So, I mean, I would tend to lean towards him getting this thing righted and Pittsburgh winning. But you've also got the thing with Wilson coming back in for the Jets. That could be a spark. So it's just not a big enough strength of bet either way for me to bet on this one.
Yeah, I like that tailback haul out of New York Jets. I think he went for 100 and 100 last week. Very impressive young back. They put a lot of pieces together. They got a great coach. They're fighting kind of like the Lions are fighting. I like the Jets. I'm not going to bet them this week. I bet them against the Ravens. Thought they'd get it done. I'm sorry. I bet them against the week 1, and I thought they'd get it done, and they didn't. Yeah, it was the Ravens, but really with that Ravens game, they just had one bad quarter, that third quarter. The rest, basically, it was a 10-9 game after that. So I think they're playing good football, but I just don't see Tomlin going 1-3. I just can't see it, but it could happen this year, so I'm staying away. All right, we have another home dog with the Ravens hosting the Bills. The over-under here is 41.5, and the Bills are favored by a field goal despite losing last week and the Ravens winning. Both teams are 2-1, and they're coming in from different games last week. Buffalo lost that close game to Miami despite a 40-20 time of possession advantage. Baltimore got it done and easily handed the Pats a loss on the road. I feel like this will be a track meet, but the home dogs have covered 4 or 5 games last week. The home dogs have done pretty good whole season, according to my spreadsheets. So I'm kind of staying away from this one. Jeff, do you like anybody here?
I am going to go ahead and lean towards Buffalo in this one. I mean, they are dealing with a lot of injuries, especially in their secondary, but I just think they are a true cut above everybody else when healthy. And the fact that they're coming off such a disappointing loss, I think they're going to want to avoid their offensive coordinator having another tantrum in the booth and throwing things around. So I think they'll be motivated, and I see them covering the 3 points.
All right. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's you got an MVP candidate quarterback on both sides of the football, and Lamar Jackson is a game changer. So that concerns me. I bet against him and got burned. And then I bet on him and got the win. I'm staying away this week because I like the Bills. I think the Bills have a great football club. They got a great quarterback, but they're just not a quarterback deep club. And I think Baltimore's more of a quarterback tight end, a little bit of defense, where I think the Bills are just strong in a lot of areas. So I like them, but I'm staying away this week. Hey, next up, we got the beat-up Chargers traveling to Houston to take on the 0-2-1 Texans. The over and under here is 44, and the Chargers favored by 5. The Chargers were handled last week by the Jags, coming in with injuries on both sides of the ball. Houston lost a close one last week to Chicago and have been in all 3 games this year. Vegas is keeping the spread in the middle, thinking Houston has a chance to upset here, I think. I don't see it. I feel despite the injuries, the Chargers bounce back and get a healthy win this week. I saw the injury report for Houston. A lot of folks didn't practice. Again, don't know if the coach are keeping folks out or if those are some legit injuries. And they don't have a lot of depth in Houston. Now, having Herbert out and the wideout position in question. That's tough. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I am concerned with both teams really on the injuries, but most the Chargers without Bosa, without Slater, Keenan Allen maybe, and then Herbert, I think will actually be a little better. I don't think he'll be as bad this week, but I'm still concerned with him being 80% or whatever. Plus, they're going to have to go back on the road down to Houston after travel after that difficult loss last week. So, I mean, I think there'll be just a little bit of a emotional drain to go with the physical drain. I'm not betting this one heavy, but if I had to lean one way or the other, I'd go Houston on this one.
Yeah, Houston has done well against the spread. I don't know that I think they're 2-1, but they've been in every game they played. They may be 3-0. I'd have to check. I like the Chargers here, but we'll see. If I'm not betting it because I agree with you, Jeff. I think go either way. Hey, our first 3:00 game has the Cardinals traveling to Carolina to face off against the Panthers. I don't like this one with Hurricane Ian likely to affect the outcome and on points. The Panthers are favored by 1.5 and the over-under is 42.5. I'm staying away. I stay away from Hurricane games. Jeff, you put your hard-earned money here or are you staying away?
I'm actually going to make this one my third free pick. It is a Hurricane game, but with not only Arizona doing well historically in early part of the year, they have the best player, the best quarterback, and a quarterback who can run if conditions aren't great and he has to. Plus, I mean, there's been some conflicting reports about McCaffrey, but he's not practicing with that thigh injury. And if he doesn't play, that is a huge blow, especially in a little bit of a mucky game. So I think this one's going to be close, but I think Arizona is the better team and wins the game, even if it's a little bit messy. So I'm going to put this as a free pick with Arizona +1.
Yeah, take the 1.5 with a free pick from Jeff. I like it, Jeff. I think Kyler Murray can. I mean, you know, he was spectacular last couple of weeks, actually. He's been spectacular every game he plays, it seems like, running the football. So, yeah, I can't imagine. I see a Justin Fields type effort when Fields won that rain-soaked game against the 49ers. I see him doing the same thing. That might be a great pick. Hey, I'm going to stay right here in Florida and go to the Sunday night game. That will also be affected by Hurricane Ian. Man, that thing is really hearts out to and prayers to all the people of Florida for having to deal with that one. The NFL has a contingency plan, but they intend to play the game. The Bucs are favored by 1 at home against the visiting Chiefs. The over-under is 45. Seems like a very high number for any Tampa Bay game, even if Mahomes is coming into town. I'm staying away, but would fade the over here if I were going to bet. Jeff, I stay away, as I said, from weather events. Do you like either of these games or either of these teams?
This one, I think it is going to be impacted by the weather since they've decided to stay and play in Tampa. I don't know what the health of the receivers are like in Tampa, and for Kansas City's side, they're just going to still struggle against that Tampa Bay defense. That defense has been so good. With the weather factored in, I would kind of lean a little bit under, but I'm not picking this game. I'm certainly not going point spread because I think there could be any type of weird turnover in this one that could swing it.
Yeah, I agree. You just can't trust those hurricane conditions that can affect field goals, punts, muff punts, fumbles. You know, weird
Especially
things
with
happen
both
in these
teams being
games.
primarily air attacks. That both teams, if they were running teams, it would be one thing, but they both rely on the pass. So,
yeah. All right, you heard it here. We're staying a while. Well, one of us are taking the Arizona Panthers game, not as affected by the hurricane, but both of us are staying away from the hurricane game. They're in Tampa this week, trying to save that money for better bets in the future. And next up, we have the Packers hosting the Pats. The Pack is favored by 9.5, and the over/under is 40. 40. That's so low. Looks like Jones will not go for the Patriots, and Hoyer will be leading the offense. I feel like this is a 3-unit bet on the money line, minus 500, but some risk. But I'm not sure the risk is worth it at minus 500 on the money line. I've done those bets in the past and it's played out pretty well, but you never know. You got the Belichick factor, so I'm staying away from this one. 9.5 is a lot. The Packers did cover 10 this year against the Bears, so it's not outside of the question. And the Pats really have not been playing great football lately, but you never know when that turns around. I'm not betting this game, Jeff. I don't bet against Belichick. I tend not to.
I as well.
Especially in interconference games, he tends to do pretty well. Jeff,
I can't
go ahead,
imagine.
Jeff.
I can't imagine Belichick losing a 10-point game after that performance last week. 2 weeks in a row of being, just manhandled would be unusual. But with a new quarterback, anything's possible. I would certainly tend to think Green Bay is going to win this game. Money line might be worth it, but I'm staying away from the point spread on this one.
All right, you heard it here. Two guys that have been burned on Belichick. Don't bet against him, even when it looks like you should. Hey, next up, we got the 2-1 Broncos traveling to Vegas to take on the 0-3 Raiders. Can't believe I'm saying that. The Raiders are favored by 2.5 here, and the over-under is 45.5. I can't believe I'm saying 45.5 either, but the way the Broncos offense has looked, I don't think they've gotten 45 points this year. The Raiders have lost some close ones this year. Last year, they won a lot of close ones. And I think that's the difference this year. And the Broncos have just not looked good in any of their games, despite their 2-1 record. I like Las Vegas to get the pass rush going this game. They really haven't been able to put pressure on quarterbacks, but I think they're going to do that this week. I think this does come down to a field goal. So I would take the Raiders here. I also would fade the over. At some point, you just got to figure that the Broncos, it's not really smart betting, but it's that contrarian in me that says, at some point the Broncos get their offense going and they score over 20 points. I don't think they've done that this year though. So I don't know if it's this week, but I think it could be. Vegas is a nice place to play. It's still a little bit hot, but I'm sure they have good amenities there at the hotels. I see this game going 34-31 or 21-17. So I would not take the over under, but would fade the over if you feel like taking it. And would take the Vegas Raiders here to get it done against the Broncos. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I do tend to agree with you on the taking the Vegas Raiders. It's another game where you've had a team that started 0-3. You would think Vegas is going to start maybe looking to decrease or change the spread so that they can recoup some money so you don't have a long losing streak for Vegas. I kind of see that here. I would think that Vegas team-wise is more than a 3-point favorite playing at home. So they may have already started to adjust for their 0-3 start. And I just don't understand. I mean, Josh McDaniel is a very good offensive mind. Granted, he's kind of a jerk of a coach, but I just think he's going to find a way to get Davante Adams involved. I mean, they had a better record than this last year with less talent without the Davante Adams on the offense. So at some point it's going to start clicking. I think it's this week. So I'm going to go Vegas.
Last year, I think Vegas won, a lot of close games, like the Ravens lost a lot of close games. A lot of games that they lost were because of two-point conversions there in Baltimore. You got to feel like that it's going to flip the other way, right? I mean, you can't have bad luck forever on these close games. Losing by 2, 4. Yeah, I feel like they're going to get it figured out. I was watching the game, a lot of drop balls. I don't feel like they're using their slot receiver, Hunter Renfro, the way they did last year. I think their offense is doing pretty well. Not really great in the red zone. And I feel like, again, turnovers are really hurting this team. So I see them getting it done this week and not going 0-4. All right, last game, we got Monday night. We have the Rams traveling to San Fran to take on the 49ers. I am so surprised at this line. The 49ers are favored by 1.5 and the over-under is 42. Both teams are banged up here. I know Stafford's got some issues and you got other players, and it's a tough one to go on the road 2 weeks in a row to win a division. But my third free pick is take the Rams to win on Monday night on the money line at plus 105. I think they get it done and they go to 3-1 and not end up 2-2. Jeff, do you like any of these teams on Monday night?
Yeah, I was surprised that San Francisco is favored as well. I would definitely tend to lean towards the Rams winning the game. So yeah, I would definitely take the Rams and the points, especially as I mentioned with Williams, left tackle for San Francisco, being one of the key injuries really that I saw from last week. I think that's really going to impact, especially Garoppolo not being comfortable back there and not being the most mobile. So that I would feel good about the Rams.
Yeah, so my bet is not taking the 1.5 points. Give up the 1.5 because this thing could stay. This could be a 31-30 game. But take the Rams on the money line. I think they get it done. Hey, that's all we got this week. Jeff, I'll leave you with the parting shots.
Well, the main thing that I'm looking at, this being the fourth week, which is the end of my first quarter of the season, I'm really looking to see some lines start to change next week to adjust for some of the things that we're seeing. Your talk about the unders overperforming so far for the first part of the year, some of these teams that are going 0-3 or 3-0 against the spread. I think after the first 4 games of the season, Vegas will start to adjust. So next week, we should start to see some changes in how the lines are shown, and that should give us some more opportunities for bets after this week.
Yep. So I just want to recap my free picks, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff, to recap yours. I got the Rams on the money line at plus 105. Take the over on the Jags Philly at 47. And the last one I got, I should have wrote these down. I got take Chicago and the points -3. And I'll have quite a few picks out there this week as well. I like a lot of teams this week. Hopefully I can get my record back into the winning ways and get up there where you're at 500 at least this week. Jeff, you want to recap your free picks?
You bet. I am taking Detroit -4.5 over Seattle. I'm looking for Philadelphia to have a fairly convincing win over Jacksonville. So I'm taking them -6.5 at home. And the final one, in the somewhat of a mucky game in Carolina, I'm looking for Arizona +1, but I think they'll actually win the game outright. And yes, I'm hoping we can both move back up a little bit above 500 and get back to that 54-55% that we like to stay at.
Yeah, 52.5, 52 to 52.4 makes your money. I'm not there yet. Jeff, you were there. I think you dropped back down. We need to get back there. And, this first quarter of the season's really tough. First 4 weeks are tough. Start seeing trends, and the analysis that we do, I think over time is going to make up. And we're going to start flipping the script here and moving up in the win column and get back toward that 60-65% that we're looking for this year. All right, Jeff, that's all I got. Rookies. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you.